Our next presenter is Ahsan Siddiqi, I hope I've got that right, and moving beyond the silos with a modern enterprise data platform. Ahsan is Director of IT and Data Strategy and Architecture at XBY2. Please join us. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nexus, for providing this opportunity and also for all of you to come here and give your time. So we've all talked or listened a lot about artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, but one thing more that we learned today was the foundation for everything is data, right? And that is not something new. Data has always been sort of the lifeblood of the business. We write a policy, that's information, it's passed on to someone else, you want to file a claim, you're essentially exchanging information. But now, more and more use cases are coming, more newer technologies are coming, there is much more reliance on data. So we talk about what is in the realm of possibilities, what we can do with artificial intelligence, what we can do with machine learning, et cetera. But sometimes we keep we don't pay as much attention to data. And as a consulting firm, we go to a lot of companies and they have these ambitions. We try to see how to help them achieve them, and we find that, hey, there is a neglected area in your organization that you perhaps need to pay attention to. You're slowing yourself down, you have higher cost, you have rigidity, you won't be as agile as you want. All of these buzzwords that are there, everything is dependent on how good the data is, how easy it is to access data and manipulate data. So with that in mind, we prepared this topic and say, okay, let's talk about that. And instead of talking in general terms, let's walk our audience through an actual journey of an organization where we work and help them with streamlining some of their data assets, data operations. Okay. So this study is about a healthcare insurer. This is healthcare data is a little bit more complex than P&C and life data, as we can imagine. There are a little more nuances there. So it has a little bit of unique challenges there. So what happened with this organization? The senior leadership of the organization, especially the CEO, wasn't really happy with the quality of analytics that we're getting. And I'm not talking about advanced analytics, this basic analytics that you would need to run your organization, the basic timeliness of reporting to the regulatory companies and quality of reporting that are accurate, getting hit by fines and delays in submissions, et cetera. So they weren't really very happy. What do I need? They needed to do something about that. The entire reporting and analytics was within the domain of IT. So IT would deliver whatever is needed for reporting. If somebody needs actual data, they'll deliver that data. But IT was completely focused on operations, keeping the lights on, making sure all the systems are running. I think when in the very beginning we had a survey, what's keeping you from jumping on or making use of these modern technologies? I think the biggest answer was legacy systems. So IT was tasked with maintaining those legacy systems as well as replacing them with modern ones. So that's that. And then, these days with IT is cloud migration. You got to move everything or as much as possible to the cloud. So they have a lot on their plate. In addition to technical debt. So technical debt, some of you may not know what that is. So in easy terms, technical debt means two things. One is a bandage, right? So if you have a problem, you just go and put a Band-Aid on a problem. And the second is putting it off. It's just, the tap is leaking just a tiny bit, just leave it there. That's not my priority. And then over time, it adds on and piles up, and then you find that all I'm doing is fixing Band-Aid. I just don't have any bandwidth to do any strategic work. So how do they solve this problem? CEO carves out the informatics group out of IT. Say all these people who are reporting, they call their group informatics. We're going to carve them out and give it to someone else. Hires an EVP level leader right? So EVP meaning directly reporting to CEO, the very clear message to the rest of the organization how important that is. And then forms an informatics group, adds a few more people, and say, okay, EVP, here's your problem, solve this for me. Okay, EVP comes on board, says, okay, I have all of these great ideas, I can do this with analytics, and we can do with this segmentation of this member, this is how we can help marketing, target the right people, this is how we can do fraud detection and all kinds of things. But in reality, what happens, the first thing it finds, the data is extremely fragmented across the organization. And there are data silos across everywhere else. If I need to pull a report or any analytics, hey, this piece of data is with this group and this data is with that backup, and so I need to put these all things together. Oh, I can't access that system, or if I need a backup or data from this, I have to submit a ticket with IT. It's a 2-week wait period, right? A lot of challenges there. No data governance, so certainly if there is so much siloed data and fragmented data, certainly because there has never been any data governance. Constant reinvention of wheel. So even though the EVP is able to pull something in a report and it takes it to a discussion, and then somebody says, looks interesting, let's dissect it by our lines of business. Like, oops, now what do I do? Now go back and start the whole process. And I need to pull this data from every time they are reinventing the wheel. Oh, I need to run it with the latest data, right? Whatever happened this past month or these 2 weeks, I want to run that data with this. Oh, I need to rerun the whole process. So nobody is trusting data as well because data is spread across different systems and they all have different meanings, right? So Actuarial have their own meaning of what earned premium is. Finance have their own meaning of what earned premium is. What is churn? It means something else for marketing. So people are bringing numbers, they're not matching up. So no one is trusting everyone. And interestingly, they had hired, prior to engaging us, KPMG, they did an audit and they found that your organization, that's an estimate, you have over 25,000 data assets that are used for operations and reporting. And it just keeps on multiplying. And how those data assets, like, okay, I need this data, I'll make a backup. Oh, this is my January data, this is my February data, I'll duplicate it, this is my March data, and think about it, the whole organization is doing it. So in 2 years' time, it would have touched 100,000. He asked his leadership team, directors and VPs, can you come up with some kind of a strategy to solve this problem, work with IT and figure it out. They came up with some solution. He wasn't happy with that. So at any rate, he decided to engage us. So this is a problem that we've seen very often. This is sort of we do for a living, especially for insurance industry. It is not something unique. Wherever you go, you get into these major data kind of chaos kind of situations. So with that, going through this process over and over again, we've sort of come up with a template that we find is fairly applicable. And we go through this process anyways. It starts with understanding the business objectives. What are you trying to do with your data? Doing some current state analysis. So for us to provide any advice or a strategy, you have to understand the problem. If you don't understand the problem, your advice is, last night I read a magazine and here's my advice. It has to be contextual. So that, and then providing a future state vision. This is what the vision is. This is how your people should work, how you should organize yourself. This is your IT data architecture should be. And then converting into some kind of technology roadmap, business delivery roadmaps, what kind of team you would need, your budgets, et cetera, what kind of tools, et cetera, that you need. So we'll quickly walk through that. So in this specific scenario, we as a priority, we selected a subset of business functions. We said, okay, these are the ones we'll focus on and try to see what's happening in those spaces. So various departments you will see, for example, members, claims, care management of patients, providers in the sense who provide medical services, be them doctors or chiropractors or hospitals, et cetera. We looked at their existing data architecture, their existing data governance practices. So the first thing we do is a current state analysis, understand what is happening. For us to provide you an advice, we have to understand your current state. So here is an illustration of one of the data flows for claims. We looked at claims data, how are the various sources where the data comes in. So you can see there are a whole bunch of data sources on the right. Well, that's where the data is coming from. Where does it go? You see that the data goes into this core claims admin platform. Okay, that's where the data goes. Then what happens to that data afterwards? Oh, it gets multiplied in so many different databases. So the pharmacy claims go somewhere else. Attribution goes somewhere else. Attribution is, which patient has which family physician, right? There is a monthly data mart. There is a daily data mart. Informatics department had their own data mart. So now you can see how this is multiplying, right, at the data assets layer. And then next are the people who are doing the analysis. They access these data sources, these various data assets, and they produce different reports. And they themselves create their own data assets. And eventually it gets consumed by the various consumers. So this is just like one data flow, kind of map it out and understand. And then we do some high-level assessment of what are the problems that we see in this picture. Like, there is a lot of data duplication, right? When you have data duplication, you always have this problem. This data is a month old. This data is 2 days old. This data is a week old. How do I join these data sources together so that they have a sense? No self-service capabilities, all kinds of tools. SAS, one department is using SAS, another department is using Cognos. Some are thinking about moving to Microsoft's Power BI because they wanted to move to a single vendor. We repeated this process for all of these. So you can see this list of blueprints sort of piling up. And then we came up with sort of an assessment of what's the situation, what's your data architecture's current state. So there's a situation they were in that you have all of these various sources where you store information for policies, for customers, for claims, et cetera. And then what you do, you duplicate all of that into various data assets. Everybody goes, whoever has as much sway in the organization, they create all of these data assets. They have a life of their own. Another thing we noticed was that this problem was faced by some of the other groups as well who were heavy data users. They said, we need to solve this problem. So they were trying to consolidate all of that data on their own. So they were at least triplicate 3 efforts by 3 different departments. The first one is Informatics department was trying to create their own data platform so that I can aggregate everything at one place and use. Second is Actuarial. They are heavy data users. They're saying, hey, no one is helping me. I'm going to do it on my own, create this data platform. And then IT as well. IT had people asking for data from wherever, and then they were trying to do it as well. So there was the 3 departments within the organization trying to solve the same problem. And then you have the end users. The end users come in 2 forms, people who are analysts who are directly using this reports, or you may have different systems that use those need that data. Right, and we kind of identified there's the 3 layers that you have. And everybody is accessing data everywhere. So hey, if I need data, I may go to the Actuarial data mart, or I may go to the database that was backup that was created, and some people are going all the way to the source systems. So it's a very bad kind of entanglement. And in this situation, if you want to move one of the pieces out or change anything, you don't know how it's going to affect anything. Very brittle, very inflexible. And then we said, okay, if you continue on this path, what's going to happen? So what you see in the orange, on the funnel, is in future, your reporting needs are continue to grow. People would ask for more reports. There will be new regulatory requirements. This company grows, one of the strategies they have for growth is by acquisition. So you'll have a lot more data sources. So your funnel is just going to get bigger. And how do you solve that problem? There is only one way to solve the problem if this is how you grow. And that is throw more people and money at the problem. Right? Hire more people, get more hardware, whatever, and that's the only way to solve this problem. Okay, thanks for telling. So what's your magic solution? So far, whatever it was, you learned something, we didn't learn anything. So what the solution is, to me, at least from a direction perspective, you have your source systems and your users, system users and people users on one side. You need some kind of a data platform which is, clean, easily manageable, well structured. And you bring data in, and that's where people use all of the data as well. And it also provides a layer of abstraction with your source system with all of the other systems. So one of the major problems they had, they were using facets, so people in the healthcare space probably would understand. It's a policy and claims admin system. They wanted to replace it with another system, but there was no way they could. Facet system itself had 1,500 point-to-point connections within the organization. How do you take that piece out and put something in? It's just impossible. But if they had an architecture like this, they know if I'm removing this source system, these are 10 pipes getting out of it, wherever they're going. I just need to worry about those 10, not those 1,500. So it gives them that flexibility. Okay. The other thing is when you get more data sources, you expand, you acquire companies or whatever, you can add them into the same data platform. Right? So it's not, the funnel is not exponentially expanding. And then what is that magic orange box? Provide a detailed architecture of what that magic box is. What's inside that box, how the data is flowing, what are the various boxes, how reporting is done, where the external data is coming in, so on and so forth. That's like a 1-hour topic on its own to describe this. But nevertheless, gave them very detailed documentation or a blueprint of what the box is supposed to look like. And then once we have that conceptual solution, the next thing was, okay, we have this conceptual solution. The next layer on that complexity is application of technology. What kind of technologies would be applied on all of these boxes? I think someone earlier said, for example, hey, data lake is not the solution, is a tool or is one technology. So similarly here, in this solution, where does data lake apply? So you understand this is one piece of the puzzle where data lake applies. So this is an example of this is where for streaming data, what kind of technologies would you use for unstructured data? What kind of technologies would apply here? And then we do this exercise everywhere else, and then we say, okay, which technologies you have, you don't have, which ones you need to evaluate, which ones you need to buy, and so on. Next layer on top of this is deployment. How are you going to deploy it? Then we break that down into, well, these pieces of the puzzle, you can deploy it either on your own data center or on your data cloud. And the other pieces of the puzzle you can deploy on a public cloud, for example. You can go to Amazon Web Services, Azure, IBM, and others. Okay. The next thing was, okay, so we have all of these systems. We are trying to rationalize. We are already trying to solve this problem, these three departments. How do they map to your solution? So then we provided them a solution that, okay, if IT, whatever IT was doing to consolidate, come up with a consolidated data platform, how does it map to this new solution that we have provided, and gave them detailed, blueprints of how what IT is doing maps to the new architecture. Similarly, Informatics was building something else, how their pieces of puzzle map to the new architecture. Actuarial was doing something, whatever they were doing, how their pieces of puzzle map to the new architecture. Essentially saying, hey, you guys are building the bathroom over there, you come and build it over here, right? You were painting over there, you come and paint here, for example. Cross-divisional roles. So now you're talking about different people would work. Now, how are we supposed to work with each other? Because it doesn't map up exactly with the way we are organized. So giving them guidance on which part of the puzzle information technology should you own and take responsibility for, which part of the puzzle Informatics should take the responsibility for. They own the roadmap, they own the prioritization, they have to deliver on their piece of the puzzle. And then similarly, there are other very important core systems that need to interact with your data architecture, such as master data management and others. What would IT do there? What would Informatics do there? And what would be the business's responsibilities, business operations team's responsibility in those systems? So calling those out as well. And then if you want to bring this solution, build this solution, what kind of team, what kind of roles, what kind of talent would you need? How many teams would you need if you want to build this out? So giving them some direction there as well. If you want to build this out, these are the type of people, resources that you would need. And they can map into who they have and who they need to hire from outside or get consulting help. Ooh. I think I'm good on time, just need 2 more minutes. So business requirements, okay, fine, understand the team. Now I have a list of these business requirements from these various business users. Which one do I deliver first, which one I deliver later? So there is a methodology to us. We look at all the business requirements, and then we look at the complexity. The first report, for example, says, if you need to deliver that first report, I need data from like 5 or 6 sources. To deliver that report at the bottom, I need data from 19 sources. So do some kind of prioritization, identify the dependencies amongst them, and then come up with an actual roadmap for them. If you want to execute on this, this is what you need to do. In phase 1, you need to get physician data into this new data architecture, member data, practice data, pharmacy data, et cetera. And this is the sequence that you should start work your projects. And then what you see in pink or dark pink is when you start getting those reports as that data becomes available. And the last piece is data governance. They did not have data governance. So what does it mean for data governance? What is the charter for the data governance? What do they need? What are the things that they would be focusing on? And what kind of roles do they need for data governance within their organization? Not necessarily they need to hire 20 people. What are the roles collectively the organization needs to perform to deliver data governance, right? So hopefully it was useful. I think I'm maybe a minute over. Thank you very much. And I'll be here at the X2 booth if you have any questions. Thank you.